What if the most destructive force in your life wasn't an external enemy, but an internal one that you keep unleashing? True strength isn't measured by the force of your outbursts, but by the unwavering discipline to control them. This is how you build that unbreakable control. 8 Unbreakable Habits to Control Outbursts. Stoicism, compiled and published by Stoic Dominion. Lesson 1. Map hidden emotional fault lines. Imagine a wise geologist studying a vast and beautiful landscape. To the untrained eye, the land seems peaceful and solid. But the geologist knows that deep beneath the surface lie hidden fault lines, ancient fractures in the bedrock where immense pressure builds up over time. He knows that a future earthquake, the sudden, violent outburst, will not be a random event. It will be a direct consequence of this hidden, underlying structure. His power comes not from preventing the pressure, but from understanding exactly where the fault lines are. This is the inner conflict we face with our own emotional outbursts. A sudden flash of rage, a surge of defensive anger, or a wave of overwhelming frustration often feels like it comes out of nowhere. A random storm that hijacks our rational mind. The problem with this belief is that it leaves us feeling helpless. We become afraid of ourselves, living in a constant, low-grade fear of our own unpredictable reactions. We can't prevent an earthquake if we believe the ground beneath us is a complete mystery. We are left to simply clean up the damage after each eruption without ever understanding the source. The transformative solution is to become a geologist of your own psyche, to learn to map your hidden emotional fault lines. This is the practice of looking beneath the surface of your outbursts to identify the specific, recurring triggers and the underlying beliefs they activate. The core Stoic idea here is that our passions are not random events, but the result of flawed judgments. An outburst of anger is not just a feeling, it is the result of a judgment, such as "I have been treated unjustly," or "my authority has been disrespected." These underlying judgments are your emotional fault lines. A specific comment from a colleague might be the small tremor, but the deep fault line is the underlying belief that people don't respect my work. By mapping these connections, you move from being a terrified victim of your own emotional earthquakes to a wise strategist who understands the terrain of his own mind. You can't stop the pressure from building, but you can understand where it is and why, which is the first step toward managing it. To begin this essential cartography, you must become a reflective investigator of your own past outbursts. The first actionable step is to conduct an earthquake review. After an outburst has passed and you are calm, take out a journal and reflect. Don't judge yourself, just gather data. What was the specific event that preceded the outburst? This is the epicenter. The second step is to identify the trigger. What specific words or actions initiated the emotional reaction? Was it a particular tone of voice? A feeling of being ignored? Pinpoint the exact moment the ground began to shake. The third and most crucial step is to ask, what deeper belief or insecurity did this trigger touch? This is the fault line. The trigger of being criticized might touch the fault line of, "I am not good enough." The trigger of being cut off in traffic might touch the fault line of, "The world is unjust and people are disrespectful to me." Be brutally honest with yourself. The benefits of mapping these fault lines are a profound shift from powerlessness to empowerment. You will stop seeing your outbursts as mysterious, monstrous parts of your personality and start seeing them as predictable, cause and effect phenomena. This knowledge is power. It allows you to anticipate situations that are likely to trigger you and to prepare yourself mentally. You are no longer walking blindly across a dangerous landscape. You have the map. You know where the weak points are, and this awareness is the foundation upon which all strategies for control are built. Your practice is to choose one recent outburst, no matter how small. Take 10 minutes to work backward and identify the specific trigger and the deeper, hidden fault line it activated. Mapping the fault lines is the strategic preparation a warrior does before the battle. But what do we do in the heat of the moment, when we feel the ground begin to shake? This leads to our most immediate and powerful tool. Next, we will learn how to breathe steady through the turmoil. Please subscribe to Stoic Dominion to continue this essential training. Lesson 2. Breathe steady through turmoil. Imagine a deep-sea diver exploring the silent, crushing depths of the ocean. His life depends entirely on the calm, steady, and controlled flow of air from his tanks. If he were to panic and start taking rapid, shallow breaths, he would not only burn through his precious oxygen supply, but his own physiological panic would cloud his judgment, leading to catastrophic mistakes. His lifeline is not just his oxygen. It is his ability to control his breathing, which in turn controls his mind. This is the inner conflict we face the moment a trigger is pulled and an emotional outburst begins to surge. Adrenaline floods our system, our heart rate skyrockets, and our breathing becomes rapid and shallow. We have entered a state of physiological panic. The problem is that in this state, our rational brain, our prefrontal cortex, effectively shuts down. We are now operating from our most primitive, reactive animal brain. Clear thought is impossible. We are the diver, hyperventilating in the deep, about to make a fatal error. We often think our outburst is a mental event, but it is preceded and fueled by a powerful physical one. The transformative solution, the warrior's first line of defense in the heat of battle, is to learn to breathe steady through turmoil. This is the understanding that the most direct and powerful lever you have over your own emotional state is your breath. You cannot directly control the adrenaline, but you can consciously control the rhythm of your breathing. By deliberately slowing down and deepening your breath, you send a powerful signal from your body back to your brain that says, there is no immediate threat. You can stand down. We are safe. This act of physiological regulation re-engages your rational mind and creates the crucial space you need to manage the emotional surge instead of being consumed by it. It is the first and most critical step in taking back control from the hijack. The Stoics understood this deep connection between body and soul, knowing that a disciplined mind requires a disciplined body, and it starts with the breath. To master this foundational skill, you must practice a specific technique until it becomes an automatic reflex. The technique is called box breathing, used by Navy SEALs, athletes, and other elite performers to maintain calm under extreme pressure. It is simple. The first actionable step is to learn the rhythm. Inhale for a slow count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale for a slow count of 4. Hold the exhale for a count of 4. That is one box. The second step is to practice it when you are calm. Spend 2 minutes each morning practicing box breathing. This builds the muscle memory so that you can call upon it in a moment of stress without having to think about it. The third step is to deploy it at the first sign of turmoil. The moment you feel the physical sensations of an outburst beginning, the tight chest, the hot face, your immediate, drilled response is to start your box breathing. The benefits of mastering your breath are the benefits of having an emergency brake for your emotions. You will gain the ability to halt an emotional spiral before it gains unstoppable momentum. This single skill can prevent countless regrettable words and actions. It will give you a profound sense of agency in moments where you previously felt powerless. You will possess the secret of the elite warrior and the deep-sea diver. The knowledge that by controlling your breath, you control your mind. You become the calm center of your own physiology, able to navigate the crushing pressures of life with a steady supply of inner peace. Your practice is to pause right now and complete 3 full cycles of box breathing. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. Feel the immediate effect it has on your nervous system. Controlling your breath creates the space for reason. In that space, the next battle is fought, the battle of the tongue. An outburst is often a verbal explosion. To control it, you must first learn to control your words. Next, we will learn to silence your words in order to harness your true force. Please like this video if you felt the power of your own breath. Lesson 3. Silence words, harness force. Imagine a powerful river that is about to flood. The panicked and foolish response is to try and shout at the river, to argue with it, to curse it. This achieves nothing and wastes precious energy. The wise engineer, however, does not waste his breath. He works in silence, using all of his energy to quickly and efficiently place sandbags, to build up the levees, and to reinforce the dam. His silence is not passivity. It is a state of intense, focused, and powerful action. He knows that in a crisis, words are a distraction from the real work. This is the inner conflict we face when we feel an outburst welling up inside us. Our instinct, fueled by adrenaline and ego, is to open the floodgates of our mouth. We feel a desperate urge to speak, to defend ourselves, to attack, to win the argument. The problem is that these words, spoken in the heat of the moment, are like the shouts of the foolish man at the river. They are almost always counterproductive. They escalate the conflict. They inflict wounds that are hard to heal. And they prevent us from doing the actual internal work of managing our own emotional state. We are so busy talking that we forget to work on the dam. The transformative solution is to embrace the warrior's discipline and learn to silence your words in order to harness your force. This is the practice of consciously closing your mouth at the precise moment your emotional brain is screaming at you to open it. It is one of the most difficult and therefore most powerful acts of self-control. The core Stoic principle here is the understanding that a man who cannot control his own tongue has no hope of controlling his own life. The Stoics prized terse, meaningful speech and were deeply suspicious of emotional, reactive chatter. Silence in a moment of turmoil is not a sign of weakness or submission. It is a sign of immense strength. It declares, I have so much control over myself that I will not be baited into a foolish verbal brawl. I am conserving my energy for a wiser, more strategic purpose. It allows you to shift your focus from the external battle of words to the internal battle of self-regulation. To master this powerful form of restraint, you must train it like a muscle. The first actionable step is to make a physical gesture your trigger for silence. This could be pressing your tongue firmly to the roof of your mouth or gently biting the side of your cheek. When you feel the urge to lash out verbally, this physical cue becomes your immediate, drilled command to close the gates. The second step is to have a silent mantra ready. As you are keeping your mouth shut, you can repeat a phrase in your mind like, "Silence is strength," or "Do not add fuel to the fire." This gives your mind a task to focus on while the urge to speak passes. The third step is to understand that you can always speak later. Silence does not mean you have forfeited the conversation. It means you are choosing to postpone your contribution until you can do so from a place of calm and reason. You are not surrendering. You are making a strategic retreat to higher ground. The benefits of mastering silence are a dramatic reduction in destructive arguments and regrettable statements. You will protect your relationships from the corrosive acid of angry words. You will be amazed at how many conflicts de-escalate on their own when you refuse to participate in the verbal escalation. You will gain a reputation as a person of immense composure and wisdom. People will learn that you are not easily rattled, and your eventual words, because they are chosen so carefully, will carry far more weight and authority. You become the wise engineer who saves the town not by shouting at the flood, but by silently and effectively building his defenses. Your practice is to enter your next potentially heated conversation with one goal: to speak 50% less than you normally would. Use that extra space to listen and breathe. Silence gives us the space to stop the destructive output of energy. But what do we do with the immense hot energy of the emotion itself? A warrior does not waste power, he transforms it. Next, we learn how to channel the heat of an outburst into the light of insight. Subscribe to Stoic Dominion to learn this emotional alchemy. Lesson 4. Channel heat into insight. Imagine a blacksmith's forge. At its heart is a fire of immense, chaotic heat. This fire, if left untended, could burn down the entire workshop. It is a dangerous and destructive force. But the master blacksmith does not fear the fire. He does not try to extinguish it. He respects it, and he has learned to use it. He skillfully channels its raw, chaotic heat to soften and purify metal, allowing him to hammer it into a tool of great strength and purpose. The heat is not the enemy. It is the essential agent of transformation. This is the inner conflict we have with the energy of our anger. When we feel the surge of hot, powerful emotion that precedes an outburst, we see it as a purely negative and destructive force. We believe our only options are to either let it explode and burn down our relationships, or to suppress it and try to extinguish it, which often just feels like bottling up pressure. The problem is that both of these approaches see the energy itself as the problem. We fail to recognize that this immense emotional heat is just that, energy. It is raw, undifferentiated power, and like the blacksmith's fire, it can either be used for destruction or for creation. The transformative solution is to become the master blacksmith of your soul, to learn how to channel the heat of your emotion into the light of insight. This is the alchemical practice of taking the raw energy of anger or frustration and using it not as fuel for an outburst, but as fuel for intense self-reflection. The core Stoic idea is that our passions contain valuable information. As Seneca noted, anger, while a form of temporary madness, often arises from a perception that an injustice has occurred. The feeling of anger is a powerful signal fire, telling you that one of your core values or expectations has been violated. The untrained mind simply lets the fire rage. The Stoic warrior sees the fire and asks, "What specific value of mine is being threatened right now to cause such a powerful reaction? What does the intensity of this heat tell me about what I truly care about?" By channeling the energy into these questions, you transform it from a destructive force into a powerful tool for self-discovery. To become this emotional blacksmith, you need a new process for handling the heat. The first actionable step is to have a reflection question prepared. When you feel the heat of anger rising, instead of focusing on the person who triggered you, turn your focus inward and ask your question. What is it that I believe is under attack right now? Is it your sense of respect? Your competence? Your freedom? The second step is to use the energy for journaling. Instead of yelling at someone, grab a journal and channel the intense energy into frantic, uncensored writing. Explore the question, I feel this anger because my value of fairness was violated when. This allows the energy to be released constructively. The third step is to look for the underlying principle. Once you have identified the value that was attacked, you can then move on to a more rational assessment. Okay, my sense of fairness was violated. Now, what is the most virtuous and effective way to address this violation? The benefits of this alchemical practice are immense. You will turn your greatest emotional vulnerability into your most powerful tool for self-awareness. Each trigger becomes not a threat, but a priceless opportunity to understand your own values on a deeper level. You will find that the urge to lash out decreases dramatically because you now have a productive and empowering outlet for that intense energy. You are no longer at the mercy of the fire. You are the master blacksmith who can stand in the heat of the forge, unafraid, knowing that this powerful energy is what you will use to create the unbreakable tools of your own character. Your practice is to think back to your last moment of intense anger. Now, ask yourself the question, what core value of mine was being trampled on in that moment? Channeling the heat gives us insight. But to truly learn from our outbursts, we must be able to look at ourselves with the unflinching, objective eye of a true warrior. Next, we will explore the art of observing yourself without bias. Your support helps us forge these lessons. Please like and share this video. Lesson 5. Observe self without bias. Imagine a warrior after a difficult training session. He is covered in sweat and exhausted. He has made mistakes. The unskilled warrior might storm away in a fit of pique, cursing his own clumsiness and refusing to think about his errors. The truly great warrior, however, does something different. He goes to the side of the training ground, and in his mind, he replays the entire session from the perspective of a neutral, third-person observer. He watches his own movements, his footwork, his mistakes, not with self-judgment or shame, but with the detached, analytical eye of a coach. He is not looking to condemn himself, but to learn. He is observing his own performance to gather pure data for improvement. This is the inner conflict that prevents us from learning from our own emotional outbursts. In the aftermath, we are either consumed by shame and self-loathing. I can't believe I did that. I'm a terrible person. or we are consumed by defensive pride, justifying our actions and blaming the other person. Both of these responses are driven by ego and emotion. They are biased. And because they are biased, they make it impossible to learn the objective lesson from the event, ensuring that we are doomed to repeat it. The transformative solution is to cultivate the ability to observe the self without bias. This is the practice of looking at your own past actions, especially your emotional outbursts, as if you were a scientist studying a phenomenon or a coach reviewing game tape. The core Stoic principle here is the separation of the self from the action. Your past action was a single event in time. It is not the totality of you. The Stoics were masters of this kind of rational self-analysis. Seneca, in his evening reflections, would review his day and his faults not to whip himself with guilt, but to diagnose his errors in reasoning. By taking this objective, third-person perspective, you can bypass the ego's defensive mechanisms and the inner critic's harsh judgments. This allows you to see with perfect clarity what happened and why it happened, which is the only way to ensure it doesn't happen again. To become this unbiased observer of your own life, you need to practice a form of mental distancing. The first actionable step is to use third-person language when journaling about an outburst. Instead of writing, "I got so angry and I said," try writing, "He felt a surge of anger, and then he chose to say." This simple linguistic trick creates a powerful sense of detachment and allows for a more objective analysis. The second step is to ask diagnostic questions, not judgmental ones. Instead of, "Why am I so stupid?" ask, "What was the flawed judgment that led to that action? At what point did the initial impression become an emotional reaction?" This shifts the focus from your character to your process. The third step is to look for the lesson, not the verdict. The goal of the review is not to decide if you were good or bad. The only goal is to extract a single actionable lesson that will make you wiser for the future. The lesson here is that I am vulnerable to outbursts when I am sleep-deprived. The benefits of this practice are accelerated personal growth and a deep sense of self-compassion. You will stop repeating the same emotional mistakes because you will finally understand the mechanics behind them. You will replace harsh self-criticism with constructive self-coaching. Your relationship with yourself will transform. You will no longer be a harsh judge, but a wise and patient mentor to your own spirit. You become the great warrior who has the immense courage to look at his own imperfections without flinching, knowing that this clear-eyed observation is the only true path to mastery. Your practice for this week is to remember one small mistake you made. Close your eyes and replay it in your mind as if you were watching a movie starring someone else. Just watch, without judgment. Observing ourselves helps us understand our internal world, but our outbursts are often triggered by the external world, specifically by people who cross our personal lines. To prevent the fire, we must guard our space. Next, we will learn to use firm limits as a shield. Subscribe to Stoic Dominion to build your inner fortress. Lesson 6. Guard space with firm limits. Imagine the great fortress we have spoken of, with its strong walls and vigilant sentinels. The fortress is a space of order, peace, and purpose. The world outside can be chaotic and unpredictable. The purpose of the walls and the gates is to create a firm limit, a clear demarcation between the chaos outside and the order within. The walls give the ruler of the fortress control over who and what is allowed to enter his space. This control is the very foundation of his kingdom's peace and security. This is the inner conflict we face when dealing with people who trigger us. We often feel we have no right to create space or to set limits. We believe we have to endure intrusive questions, disrespectful behavior, or draining conversations, especially from family or colleagues. The problem is that by allowing everyone and everything to breach our walls, we allow the chaos of the outside world to become our inner state. Our fortress has no perimeter. Our energy is drained. Our focus is shattered, and we are constantly being pulled into battles we don't want to fight. This lack of firm limits makes us highly vulnerable to emotional outbursts, because we are perpetually living in a state of being trespassed upon. The transformative solution is to become the sovereign ruler of your own domain and learn to guard your space with firm limits. This is the understanding that you have a fundamental right to protect your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. These firm limits are your fortress walls. The core Stoic principle here is that while we cannot control what others say or do, we have absolute control over our own actions and our own environment. This includes choosing who we interact with, for how long, and on what terms. Setting a boundary is not an act of aggression against another person. It is a rational act of defending your own inner peace. It is not about punishing them. It is about protecting you. A high-value man, a Stoic king, knows that his ability to maintain his composure and pursue his purpose is directly related to his ability to control his own space. To become a master of guarding your space, you must be a clear and decisive ruler. The first actionable step is to claim your right to end any conversation. You are never a hostage. Memorize a few calm exit lines, such as, "I'm not going to continue this conversation while you are yelling," or "This topic is clearly upsetting, so I think it's best we stop here," or simply, "I have to go now." The second step is to use physical distance as a tool. If you know a particular person is a major trigger for you, you have the right to limit the time you spend with them, or to only see them in neutral, public settings. This is not a punishment. It is a wise, strategic decision to protect your own tranquility. The third step is to have a no-fly zone for certain topics. You can calmly state, "I have a policy of not discussing politics, my finances, my personal relationships." A firm limit, stated calmly, is a sign of immense strength. The benefits of guarding your space are a dramatic reduction in the number of triggers you have to face in the first place. Prevention is the best medicine. You will find your life becomes more peaceful and your energy levels increase because you are no longer constantly fighting off trespassers. You will teach others how to treat you, and those who cannot respect your limits will naturally fade from your life. You become the king whose fortress is a place of peace and order, not because he is isolated, but because his gates are well guarded. His strength is so evident that fewer and fewer challengers even dare to approach his walls. Your practice is to identify one person or topic that consistently drains your energy. Make a plan for how you will use distance or an exit line to guard your space the next time you encounter it. Guarding our space prevents many outbursts, but to build a truly unbreakable character, we must make tranquility our default state, not just a defensive measure. Next, we will learn to weave calmness into the very fabric of our daily habits. Please like this video if you are ready to defend your own peace. Lesson 7. Weave tranquility into habits. Imagine two pieces of cloth. The first is woven haphazardly, with threads of different tensions and qualities. Under the slightest pressure, it tears easily. The second piece is woven by a master craftsman. Every thread is placed with intention. The tension is perfect, and the pattern is strong and coherent. This cloth is beautiful, resilient, and can withstand immense stress without tearing. Your life is this cloth. The threads are your daily habits and routines. An emotional outburst is a sign that the fabric of your life has torn under pressure. The inner conflict we face is that we often focus only on the moment of the tear, the outburst itself. We ignore the quality of the cloth we are weaving every single day. The problem is that a life woven from chaotic, reactive, and undisciplined habits will always be weak. It will always be prone to tearing. You cannot expect to have a tranquil mind if you live a frantic life. You cannot hope for composure in a crisis if your daily existence is a tapestry of stress, distraction, and poor self-care. Outbursts are not just a failure of in-the-moment control. They are a failure of your daily system. The transformative solution is to become the master weaver of your own life, to weave tranquility into your habits. This is the understanding that emotional stability is a byproduct of a well-ordered and disciplined daily existence. The core Stoic idea is that a good life is built day by day, choice by choice. The Stoics were obsessed with routine. They had morning rituals to prepare their minds for the day and evening rituals to reflect and learn. They knew that these small daily acts of order and discipline We're like strong threads that, woven together, create an unbreakable fabric of character. By deliberately cultivating habits of calm, focus, and reflection, you are not just managing your outbursts, you are systematically reducing the internal pressure that causes them in the first place. You are making your default state one of tranquility. To begin weaving this resilient cloth, you must start with a few strong threads. The first actionable step is to create a bookend routine for your day. Start your morning with 5 minutes of stillness, meditation, or quiet reflection before you touch your phone. End your day with 5 minutes of journaling about what you are grateful for, disconnecting from the day's stress. These two habits create a powerful container of calm for your entire day. The second step is to schedule regular pattern interrupts. This means deliberately scheduling short walks, especially in nature, into your day. These moments of quiet movement are incredibly effective at discharging accumulated stress before it can build to an explosive level. The third step is to curate your information diet. Unfollow negative or outrage-inducing accounts on social media. Limit your intake of sensationalized news. You cannot weave a tranquil cloth with threads of chaos and anger. Be a ruthless guardian of what you allow into your mind. The benefits of this practice are a fundamental shift in your baseline emotional state. You will find that you are less frequently on edge, and that it takes a much larger provocation to trigger an outburst. Your life will feel more ordered, more purposeful, and more peaceful from the inside out. You will be building a character that is not just skilled at handling turmoil, but one that naturally creates tranquility wherever it goes. You become the master weaver, and the cloth of your life becomes a work of art, admired for its beauty, its integrity, and its immense, quiet strength. Your practice is to choose just one of these habits to implement for the next week. Either the morning stillness, an evening gratitude list, or a short daily walk. Weave the first strong thread. Weaving tranquility into our habits prepares us for peace. The final habit of a warrior is to ensure that even when an outburst does happen, it is never wasted. It must become a lesson. In our final lesson, we will learn to conclude every instance of anger with deep reflection. Subscribe to Stoic Dominion to complete your mastery. Lesson 8. Conclude anger with reflection. Imagine a general whose army has just lost a battle. The unskilled general, in his anger and shame, might ignore the loss, refuse to speak of it, and quickly move on to the next fight, having learned nothing. The wise general, however, knows that the period immediately following a defeat is the most important time for learning. He gathers his captains, and while the sting of the loss is still fresh, they conduct a thorough and honest after-action review. They do not assign blame. They analyze tactics, identify weaknesses, and extract every possible lesson to ensure they are stronger for the next battle. He knows that a defeat is only a total loss if nothing is learned from it. This is the inner conflict we face in the aftermath of our own emotional outbursts. The battle is over. We have lost our composure. Our immediate instinct is often to either suppress the memory out of shame or to justify our actions out of pride. Both of these responses are a form of intellectual cowardice. The problem is that by refusing to analyze our defeat, we guarantee that we will repeat it. We doom ourselves to fight the same losing battle over and over again because we refuse to learn from the experience. The final unbreakable habit of a warrior of the mind is to conclude every instance of anger with reflection. This is the commitment to never waste a failure. It is the discipline to see every emotional outburst not as a shameful endpoint, but as a priceless, if painful, learning opportunity. The core Stoic practice here is the evening meditation or philosophical journal. Seneca wrote that every night he would put himself on trial, reviewing his actions and thoughts from the day. What bad habit did I curb today? What fault did I resist? In what way am I better? This was not an exercise in self-flagellation, but a rigorous, rational process of self-improvement. By concluding your anger with a period of calm, honest reflection, you are transforming it from a destructive poison into a powerful medicine. You are using the data from your failure to upgrade your own mental operating system. To make this reflective habit a cornerstone of your life, you need a simple, repeatable process. The first actionable step is to designate a specific time for reflection after an outburst. This could be an hour later or at the end of the day. The key is to allow the immediate emotional heat to cool down, but not so much time that you forget the details. The second step is to ask a series of diagnostic, non-judgmental questions in a journal. What was the objective trigger? 2. What was my initial judgment about the trigger? 3. Was that judgment rational? 4. Which of my fault lines did it activate? 5. How did my body feel? 6. What habit could I have used to create a better outcome? This structured review turns a messy emotion into clear data. The third step is to define one specific actionable lesson. The review is useless without a clear takeaway. The lesson is, I must not engage in important conversations when I am hungry and tired. The benefits of this final habit are the ultimate reward. You will become a true learning machine, capable of transforming your greatest weaknesses into your greatest strengths. You will break the cycle of repeated emotional mistakes. Your self-awareness will grow exponentially, and your path to self-mastery will accelerate. You will develop a deep and compassionate understanding of yourself. You become the wise general who is never truly defeated, because every battle, win or lose, makes him stronger, wiser, and better prepared for the future. Your final practice is a commitment. The next time you experience an outburst, no matter how small, commit to spending just 5 minutes afterward asking yourself one simple question. What is the lesson here? An outburst is a moment of lost control, a fire raging unchecked. But these 8 unbreakable habits are the tools of the master firefighter. They allow you to map the terrain, to control your response, and ultimately to harness the very energy of the fire and transform it into the light of wisdom. Thank you for your dedication to this most challenging and rewarding work. Mastering the fire within is the path to a life of profound peace and unshakable strength. If this guide has provided you with value, please like the video, comment with the habit you will begin practicing today, and subscribe to Stoic Dominion for more strategies on building an unbreakable life.